whatever it may be, full time.
An opportunity to come ahead and talk about something which everyone actually wants this kind of a topic to be discussed. Primarily, I want to make this interactive. It's not going to be like just running of the slides and just going through them and then talking. I hope everybody can hear me. Nalanda, I'm pretty loud, I guess, in a minute. I'll make it louder. Don't worry. Huh? I'll just switch off these lights so that they know. That chap must have gone. Injuries. Obviously, I'm just going to kind of brief on what major running injuries are, and then we're going to shift our focus to prevention. Primarily, this is what I work for, or rather this is what I want to see in the near future, that Fit to Sport is actually a domain which me and my team work for. When I finished my masters in UK in sports and exercise medicine, I actually got to learn a lot of stuff. While doing my masters, obviously it was a full-time course and stuff, and then the curriculum was so well planned that we could not only handle and manage nice ground injuries and stuff, but also some cold cases, some hospital cases as well, and the lab, physiology lab, which probably is the in thing today, where most of the athletes, they want to get themselves tested in a sports lab. So this is what all I learned, and then when I came here, unfortunately we don't have that kind of setups where we can have athletes test their VO2 max. I mean, routinely we do have labs in India, but not as many as probably we should, looking at the volume and quantum of our country. So there are certain indirect methods we usually apply to kind of test the athletes and get certain reports, generate some reports of these athletes, and then we work on them. We have a team of professionals working under this domain, a sports physiotherapist, nutritionist, and psychologist. Whatever I've seen in West, only one person obviously cannot handle. All the expertise needs to come together, and they kind of take care of the athletes pretty well as far as the performance go. So performance enhancement in sports, be it from running, swimming to skating, whatever, we kind of handle most of the sports nowadays. It's been a couple of years that this thing is in place, and we hope for kind of better performance enhancement in the near future. Okay, what does running involve? Let us now kind of see step by step as to, I am not going to go into technicalities more. We are going to just focus on certain things which are essential, and kindly I'll try and stick to the topic, and if I deviate, somebody or the colonel or anybody can just stop me, and you can go ahead. One leg hopping. Running obviously involves one leg hopping is because just for the sake of imagination, imagine a man, a one leg amputee. With just one leg, if you make him run on a crutch, obviously he's going to hop on one leg. Now because we have both legs, obviously it involves one leg hopping as well. Leg absorbs force, yes. Lot of force is exerted onto the legs, and our legs are designed to make sure that they absorb a lot of forces. It requires flexibility. Most of the runners which I see in my practice, they kind of somehow they don't work on their flexibility issues, and I'll tell you what happens if they don't. And requires hip girdle strength. Hip girdle is something which is this portion of your pelvis where you need a lot of strength. Strength in the sense you don't require huge muscles there, but obviously you require something called as hip strength, girdle strength. Lengthening and contraction, obviously yes, as you run, muscles lengthen and contract. This is most damaging to the muscle because you make them work continuously. Most of you are long distance runners and cyclists, so you know that you're going to put those muscles into kind of a machine which is going to run continuously for a long time, and that requires great strength as well, and obviously fatigue. So at the end of the day, this is what running involves. Now, what are the common injuries? Later on I am going to just cover these injuries in short. I have divided into hip and knee, feet and ankle, shin splints and stress fractures. Obviously last is hydration, cramps we can say it, which probably is somewhere related to hydration, but I will come to it later. Why I have grouped this into different parts is because usually people come of either knee pain or either ankle pain or either hip pain, but there are certain groups of injuries that kind of have some similarities with the other joint. If it is like knee pain, not necessarily the problem is only in the knee. It can be with the hip, and mostly you need to rule out certain hip pathologies to make sure that the knee problems and the knee doesn't have problem with regards to the, in connection to the hip. Same thing is with feet and ankles. Plantar fasciitis, yes, most of the runners they do suffer from plantar fasciitis. It has become a common terminology now. You don't need to explain to most of the runners or other sportsmen what plantar fasciitis is. And Achilles tendinosis, which is the tendon which is there behind the heel, that aches most of the times. Shin splints, yes, it is again a very common problem which we see, pain in the shins. Stress fractures, right now I have seen a couple of stress fractures. Because of awareness, people have started running more and more. Thanks to Pune Running again, a lot of awareness is created. People are getting into that fitness mode. They've started running, and a couple of stress fractures I have seen in the recent times. Cramps, obviously yes, we are going to deal with it. Why do they happen and what we need to do. Just to go ahead and kind of understand, I am not going to, as I told you, not going to go more technical about the whole aspect. Something we call kinetic chain that everyone needs to understand. Forget about the terminologies and all. What is kinetic chain is something, the proximal segments have an influence on the distal segment. That is, proximal is something which is away from the end of your body. So your thigh is proximal to your shin. That is what we call it. So what happens is, one portion, if it is not functioning properly, it can have an adverse effect on the distal segment and vice versa. So this is what a kinetic chain is. So we need to really understand that this is the mechanism. We need to train ourselves accordingly so that we maintain the balance and we kind of understand that the kinetic chain is actually working well. Broadly, if you classify these injuries, you can have an acute, subacute and chronic. Now whatever list of injuries which I just kind of showed in the previous slide, these three categories, all these injuries can somewhere fit in all three categories. Some people might have chronic knee pain for months together, they kind of just live with it, or they don't bother, or probably it is there but not there most of the times. Similarly, acute injuries, obviously cramps and stuff, they fall into acute injuries or something which is very recent. Subacute is something which they have only when they run and things like that. So this is broad classification. Other injuries is stitch. I will finish off with the stitch right now is because we are going to just not focus more on the stitch. I hope you know what stitch is. Stitch is something where the runners get pain here just below your ribs most of the times when they run. Okay. So what happens is, you will see few runners who are beginners or probably who have just started to kind of increase their pace or distances. They kind of hold there and then they sit. They can't do anymore. So that is stitch. Stitch is very common, especially people who train hard. Military recruits obviously are more prone to that because they have a set pattern. They need to do certain distances every single time with their colleagues, and some people obviously they get that stitch. We'll finish off with the stitch, and why? Because this is something which doesn't bother much, and if you take proper precautions, you can get away with it. Obviously, stitch, why it happens is because there is something called as a diaphragm which divides your chest and your abdomen. There is a thin kind of a layer or a plate that divides your two, and when you breathe in and out, the diaphragm moves. So what happens is, if you run on full stomach, the diaphragm is already pushed up because you are full, and then when you breathe, you're breathing, the diaphragm cannot move, and then there's something that there's a nerve called phrenic nerve that gets impinged, and you start kind of getting into that particular pain. If you don't if you don't breathe deeply, then obviously the diaphragm again, it just moves little, and then you again can get that stretch. We have to kind of understand that you can definitely get away with it by doing certain torso twists, that is twisting movements in your warm up, be it side bending on both sides. If you do it technically right, you can give it some space to expand before you start running. You can definitely prevent it. And you need to perform lower back and abdominal exercises as a routine. Most of the long distance runners, they have a kind of routine they follow. They have to take care of other muscle groups other than their legs, because what happens is if you don't take care of your lower back, there's a group of muscle that goes up that is connected to your abdomen. Again, if you don't take good care of this particular motion, this particular group of muscles, you obviously will land up in giving that diaphragm, you're putting that diaphragm under more kind of load, and then you can get this stitch. So this is what a stitch is all about. Let us understand what the injury risks factors are. Now these are broadly kind of again classified into two: extrinsic factors and intrinsic factors. What are extrinsic factors? Training errors, which is one which is very important again. Equipment, shoe type and shoe age. I am again not going to go into details about what type of shoes and how they are used and what, but shoe age, yes, you need to understand. Keep looking at your shoe sole, keep knowing how they are wearing off. You know that you need to understand that if they wear too much, the whole biomechanics changes. If you know that you're wearing that this shoe, whatever you're wearing today, it's kind of new shoe, breakaway is done, you're continuously running, you're fine with it. After say about 300 kilometers, you need to understand that there could be a possibility that the wear has already happened. So make sure you kind of look into the soles very regularly when you run. You will see some wearing happening on either side, either on the inner side or the outer side, and that you need to understand that it is your natural way of running, and that's why there's a wear there. Once it starts wearing on one side, obviously your weight bearing is going to change drastically. If it is sprinters and all, within few seconds your thing is over, but when you're long distance runners, you need to understand that you're going to run in that particular wrong probably biomechanics for a while, and that starts creating different loads, or rather bad loads on certain groups of muscles and joints. So shoe wear is obviously important. Environment again, why it is under risk factors is because you run in Mumbai, you know how humid it is. You run in Chennai, obviously it is impossible, although they are both on the coast, but Chennai humidity is so different than what it is in Mumbai, and similar it is Pune and Hyderabad and things like that. So, and also the season, this is just about competitions, but when you actually run during seasons, when you train, you need to understand that in winters you probably will need to do more warm up than what you do in summers, because body need to understand that your body is actually ready to start running. So in winters obviously it will take time, your heart rate needs to elevate to certain level, and then you need to feel that thing inside you that your body is ready and warm enough to start, and your joints are supple, your muscles are ready to kind of so that is environment. And surface type, obviously most of the people, I believe that you do road runnings as a training. You need to get used to one kind of either you run on the ground like what we have at Deccan Gymkhana on the mud track, or you run on the roads, but make sure you avoid cement roads and those blocks, because they are really not good for your bones and muscles and tendons and joints. Tar road, yes you can, because that has kind of little cushioning which probably helps rather than running on cement roads. Intrinsic factors, which cannot be changed. Now these all extrinsic factors you can definitely modify. You can modify your training. If you are doing any errors, you can modify them. You can change your shoe. You can obviously shoe type. If you are wearing some wrong shoe, you can obviously correct it. Environment, you can definitely take care of those particular factors which causing injury. But intrinsic factors are something which you cannot change. So there are bone alignments. Some people, they have bow legs, little bit, and I'm not talking about something which is really deformed, but they have bow legs. Some people have knock knees, but that doesn't mean that they should stop running. We can kind of do something about it, and you can make them run. Muscle imbalances. Some people, they have certain tight muscles, be it whatever, quads, or be it their shins or tibialis anterior. Some muscle is tight, or the calf muscle, and they need to kind of understand that they have those muscle imbalances. And biomechanical deficits. Now this is something which I can relate to the kinetic chain which I showed when the pelvis was turning on one side, the thigh on the other side, the ankle on one side. These are variations which probably are, and unfortunately I don't have a video to show you. I actually had a fantastic video when two runners were they were shot from behind and they started running, a sprint. They had such different biomechanics of running, but still the one which you feel the guy is completely weird running style from behind, but he never had any injuries, and the guy who had perfect kind of rhythm and he landed up with couple of injuries. So it is something to do with your own biomechanical deficits which you have, and you kind of compensate with it in such a way that you kind of you avoid these kind of injuries. So these are risk factors which are broadly classified into extrinsic and intrinsic. Now what are the causes of injuries? Again, trauma, I don't want to cover it because anybody can trip and fall and have these kind of injuries when they run, which are less common although. Overuse, yes. Too much, too soon, too fast, absolutely one thing which you should avoid. They cause lot of injuries. Some people, either peer pressure or whatever, somebody is running better than me, I need to catch up. Last week I was here, next week he is going, somebody probably is doing better although they started together, but still then they kind of, they modify, they do too much, they start too soon. Asymmetries, again, you need to understand your body types. If you have some asymmetries, get them corrected and then you can go ahead. Inflexibility, of course I told you that some people, some runners, they don't focus on their flexibility issues and they can land up in problems. And terrain, obviously if you do lot of hill training rather than doing it straight, then obviously there are chances of causing injuries. Training errors, quickly I want to run through. Too much, too soon, too fast. Again, these factors we are going to over and over again we are going to revise is because inadequate warm up. I can tell you for sure that I talk to many people, I am there on the field most of the times, here as well as away. I keep seeing many people, they do inadequate warm up. They feel just moving around here and there, 5 minutes they are done and then start their activity. Be it not only running, be it any other sports, people who are semi-professionals, they kind of don't do adequate warm up and technically wrong as well. Inadequate flexibility and strength, I've been stressing a lot on flexibility. Strength, yes, you need to develop strength in your muscles. Inadequate rest between runs, obviously I see some people, they just keep on running and they just don't stop and they land up in problems. For sure I have pointed out certain people that I know that after 2 months this guy is going to come to me and he has come because they don't stop. Yeah.
Quick question. Warm-up, of course, is very subjective.
Yeah.
Person to person. So what parameter would you use to say if it's adequate or inadequate?
Yes, we'll come to it when I cover the warm-up thing. Too many kilometers too soon, again as I told you that they just want to cover, they don't plan their probably running activities or cycling activities or swimming activities. They just want to kind of finish off. That is again, this goes under training errors. Too much interval, again somebody goes out for work, returns after 15 days, a month, and immediately they feel that they need to start where they left. It's wrong again, they'll end up in injuries as well. You need to remember two things, focus on good techniques. Up and down movement causes a lot of load on the joints. Now up and down movements in the sense, let me just briefly cover this point. What happens is when you run, I don't want to again get into the technicalities of it, but this is what up and down movement is. If you kind of keep, say if you biomechanically, if you see if you draw an imaginary line between my lower lobe of ear and my upper lobe of ear, the distance when I run should not exceed more than 4 inches, okay, technically. So what happens is, person who is probably not going more than 4 inches or something of that sort, that causes lot of load on your joints. And if you kind of plot a graph of how much that inches he is gone in the next 21 kilometers, you will see that he is not only fatigued himself probably early, but he could have gone much more with that distance if he would have kind of focused more on his running techniques, going less up and down and things like that. And obviously that is the major cause of early fatigue in long distance running. Let us come to these injuries one by one, and then we will go to how to prevent them. Patellofemoral pain is the knee pain. Most of the senior athletes, they complain of that nag which is there in the knee. It is obviously called as runner's knee. Anything that is pain in and around the kneecap is something we call as patellofemoral pain. More than 25% incidence in athletes, females more than males, is only because their Q angle, which we call, is more than that of males. They have wider pelvis, they have, their alignment is slightly different than what it is in males. That's why their kneecap doesn't track the way our kneecap tracks. The kneecap tracking is what? The kneecap that moves in between the particular joint space that has to move. So if it doesn't move in that slot and it kind of deviates, then you start getting these symptoms, and obviously females are more prone to it. Ilioband syndrome, yes, pain which is on the side of the thigh. It could be pinpoint here or it could be anywhere on the sides. This is very common again. Longer distance runners do have this kind of pains. It is basically because of this, there is a thick band of tissue here which is called iliotibial band that causes rubbing, and obviously because it rubs, there is inflammation there, and that causes the pain. That goes under iliotibial band syndrome. Something called as trochanteric bursitis, which is again very commonly seen in runners, which is pain somewhere here, which is a hard bone which you can feel on the side of your thigh. There usually people complain of nag. Again, it may radiate down the thigh or back of the thigh, and if you lie down, and mostly it happens because they must have tripped somewhere, they have one hit on that particular bone, and then there's a bursa there, it keeps on inflaming over and over again. And again, females more prone because of wider pelvis, their band obviously is stretched more than that of males, and that's why they get more pain. The other category, foot and ankle, obviously again very common, plantar fasciitis, heel pain. Very common cause of heel pain is plantar fasciitis, something which is the sole which hurts. Pain in the arch, obviously, of the foot. People have been coming almost every other day with this kind of pain. Especially when you get up in the morning, first few steps are really painful. I can definitely point out to plantar fasciitis. Achilles tendinosis is something which is right here, the tendon that attaches the heel from behind is called as Achilles tendon, and that usually get inflamed, and you kind of need to understand if there is a lump or something, there's a micro tear there, or there's something called as tight calf which probably needs attention. Shin splints, everybody know it is located in front and inner side of the shin. Overuse, wrong techniques, bad footwear, too much too soon, these are all causes of shin splints. And obviously one part is, obviously I don't want to kind of miss out, is technique of running, which you need to understand when you look at shin splints. Stress fractures, longer distance you run, say per week, more than 30 kilometers, usually these people are prone to stress fractures. Usually it is worse with activity. When you rest, they are better. It is again potentially it is devastating, because if the stress fracture, if you don't kind of take good care of it, it might go into a full blown fracture, and then you need to kind of address it surgically. It can not only happen with the shin, but anywhere in the hip, the thigh, shin, or even in the foot, in one of the foot bones. When do you see a doctor in running injuries? That is when obviously you take rest, you apply ice, you talk to your colleagues, understand, and it still doesn't alleviate, you need to see. You are unable to train at the intensity you desire and the pain still persists, you need to see someone. You have limited your day-to-day activities because of that particular pain. These are all red flags you need to understand. There is swelling and body is telling you something is wrong. This should be again evaluated medically. And we all get aches and pains with running. But if your pain is persistent, this should be evaluated. Alright, now can we prevent injuries? This is where kind of we are going to spend some time as to understanding what are the benefits of warm up, the benefits of cool down, why we need to understand that certain warm up exercises are important and obviously certain cool down stretches. And we are going to touch on the cramps after this, although it was under injuries, but we are going to just take it probably afterwards. Now injuries, can we prevent them? Yes, to a certain extent we can prevent injuries. Injuries is a part and parcel of every sport. You play recreational sport, you play at home, you play in your society, you play or you just run. You just cannot avoid injuries. But there are certain principles, basic principles, if you kind of apply to your training programs, you can avoid few injuries, which has been proved by research. Now what can we do? You need to understand that you need to warm up. You need to understand, you need to warm down, they call it nowadays, or cool down. What to do when you cramp, we are going to cover this, and when in stitch, what you need to do, that we have already kind of seen. So now warm up. I will come to your question now. When you feel that you are kind of ready, that is what you wanted to know, right? What usually you do is when you kind of wake up, now you know that you are going to run today, say 10K, you start warming up. You need to understand that there are bodies that gives you signals, whether there is no scientific parameter to what signals they are, but your heart rate needs to go up, in the sense you should start listening to your heartbeats. One, they kind of start banging in your ears once you start doing a little bit of warm up. Warm up should usually last for 12 to 15 minutes. Religious warm up should be minimum of 12 to 15 minutes. Irrespective of what you have done just before you came onto the field to start your runs or whatever, those 15 minutes should be dedicated to a disciplined warm up, which will not only prevent injuries but also make your body prepare for that particular distant run. So not only your heart rate needs to kind of go up, these particular muscles, what happens when the heart rate goes up, obviously blood flow starts going right up to the end of it already goes, but it starts pumping. You start actually sending signals to your brain that these muscles need to kind of, they need to get ready for this particular action. So you need to move all your joints, you need to kind of do it dynamically. I will come to it now. Loosening your joints is very, very important. Most of the people who I know, somebody must be doing really good warm up, I don't want to point out to anybody, but most of the people, they finish their warm up in 5 to 7 minutes. Generally, what they do in that warm up is probably shake some legs, do some rotations, do some hand rotations, and that's about it, and they start running. I want to focus mainly on loosening your joints, loosening all your joints. Running is not only about your lower body, obviously, and not only about your hand movements, it is about most of your joints, which probably needs to be ready for that particular run. Major joints, obviously you need to move. Smaller joints will automatically take its own course. Dynamic stretching, which I am going to demonstrate today a couple of them, what dynamic stretching is all about. Let me just explain you before I go into the technical corrections of dynamic stretching before we demonstrate. There are two types of stretching. One is passive and one is dynamic. Dynamic stretching is extremely important before you do your training or your running. And passive stretching is something which you need to do after your runs. These are two distinct features which you need to understand today, and this one message if you take home, I think I'll be a happy man today. So dynamic stretching is something where you move all the joints, not passively. Let me again explain you what passive movement is. When you kind of stretch your shoulder and hold and then release, this is called as passive movement. Most of our runners, most of them, I don't want to point out again, they are into passive stretching before the runs. What they'll do is they'll hold something, do this, again do that, or do some ankle stretching, and then they start running. This is passive stretching, which actually is not advisable before you train. Why? Is because when you stretch the muscle takes about 15 to 20 minutes to regain its normal physiology. So what you need to understand is you're putting them under a lot of stress for the first 15 minutes of your run already. And this is the reason why people land up in smaller nag pains and injury aches later. It doesn't happen immediately, but you're playing with your muscles which are not ready for that particular run, and first 15 minutes when you're actually ready to kind of take that, today is my day and I'm going to do it. So then you start, and then your muscle, it is not ready. So dynamic stretching is something which probably I'll demonstrate a couple of them, okay, and I'll request Samir actually to come up, and I'll just ask him to do a couple of exercises here and give you an example as to what dynamic stretching and how it is helpful. Alright, so it is just about a hip swings. I'll tell you what it is, but long lunge and figure of four, what it is all about. There are names, just forget about the names, but just get the principle behind it. See, hip swings is something which most of you all do. It is just about these hip swings. So dynamic stretching is not about just stretching here and stretching there. You need to kind of give a momentum to your joint. Make sure your joint is free, it is mobile. Make sure your muscles and tendons are working before you. So give nice swings, 10 swings this way, 10 swings on the sides, both legs. Your hip joint is ready to take on whatever number of kilometers you want to do on that particular day. Similarly, you need to work on your quadriceps, your calf muscles, major group of muscles, your glutes. Again, before I forget, I want to tell you all, you need to focus on your gluteal muscles. Why? Because most of the injuries and imbalances which I was talking about and the kinetic chain which I was talking about, it is all broken just because most of the people, they don't focus on their gluteal muscles. Okay. So now let us see how a long lunge is done. Okay. Come Samir. See, basically this is a dynamic movement. So you don't have to be in that position for a longer time. Okay. You people know what lunge is, right? You know what lunge is. Lunge is something which you go down. Okay. So I want Samir to do a lunge and get up, do a second lunge and get up, and then I'll try and correct him if he is doing the right way. He just go ahead, but I will tell him what to do. Just do.
Going to be wrong, but I was expecting like a round of applause. So I just kind of volunteered, but anybody else wants to volunteer, you're more than welcome. There's nothing planned here.
Absolutely, yeah.
So
somebody in shorts and
give it a try. You're welcome to if you.
Absolutely, even you can if you want to. You can get your footwear out and you want to join, you can join.
For the sake of interaction, yeah. Go for it, Anand.
Yeah, you can just lunge, 3 lunges, and I think. All right. Do you do this before your runs? Sometimes, not always. Yeah. See, basically, what I'm trying to do is dynamically he need to. This involves 3 joints: ankle, knee, and hip together. And we cannot have just these 3 joints moving dynamically when we do a warm up. Now, when actually he did, it was quite okay, by the way. What I want you to do now is go in a long lunge, go as far as possible, go down and do this. Okay? I'm sorry, I'm not in a proper gear to do it. So just go as far as possible and alternate it with your shoulder movements. Okay? Go ahead. Right. Exactly. Thank you so much. Huh? So what happens with this movement is, you should understand that the body continuously sends signals to the brain. Now, when you do this 10 times with each leg, the leg which you are working on, 10 times, and with your hands as well, again, the signals are there, registered, and body start moving accordingly. Now, with this lunge, you focus on most of your lower body, and simultaneously you are working with your shoulder as well, and that too dynamically. Because when you run, you are going to run. That's a dynamic movement. You are not going to stand in one place and just do this. So dynamic warm up is important. Now again, hip swings, I told you, figure of 4. Again, these are just examples which I am telling about, which you need to kind of include in your daily warm up. Daily warm up I am talking about. And what is important is the last part, is core engagement. Yeah. All right. See, basically, there is no hard and fast rule as to what should be the sequence. First, primarily, you need to either jog or skip, get your heart rate elevated. Before you do any of these dynamic stretching movements, you need to kind of get the whole body warmed up first. Say about, people, usually these long distance runners who are competitive long distance runners, they usually run about 4 or 5K, just about 4 kilometers of run as a warm up. Slowly, absolutely gently, they kind of roll, and then they start doing this kind of stretching, dynamic stretching, and then when you see them actually competing, then they are just moving about. They don't kind of just sit and stand until the system is all in place. They kind of keep moving. So you need to kind of start your running, jogging first. I don't want you to do 4 kilometers obviously, but at least for 3 to 4 minutes, get your body warmed up and cover major joints. There is no system as to you need to understand, do first the upper body, then the lower body, then the back, but the crux is get it dynamically mobilized. Don't do passive stretching before you start your runs. So be it twisting movements, be it this movements, be it your dynamic. Now again, there are a couple of examples. Lunge is one, but that focuses only on probably the posterior aspect of your body. What about the anterior part? What about the quads? You need to understand that this is one exercise which is passive, but you can make it dynamic by just, kind of come, Samir. What I want him to do is just take this leg, go behind, go on the other toe, and then move ahead. Then again this, go on the other toe and go behind. Yeah, you need to push your knee behind. Yeah, and then you need to move ahead, one step at a time. Okay. Right. So what happens here is, okay, I'll come to the technical corrections when I do the passive stretching, but this is what, dynamically you are moving your body and you are moving your front of thigh. With lunges, you are focusing on your posterior aspect. So you need to cover these major muscle groups when you kind of do. Why you come on ankle is obviously because you want to focus on ankle mobility as well, get it warmed up as well before you start running. So you need to focus on your ankle as well. Core engagement, before we move on to the passive stretching or the cool down stretches. Whenever you do this dynamic stretching, make sure that this is the core, obviously everybody knows. You need to kind of understand, you need to tuck in and make sure your core is tight enough when you do your lunge, when you do your quad stretch, when you do your dynamic hand movements. So there is a series of kind of exercises which you can kind of do every single day before you start running. They're just about 10 repetitions. You need not do like, keep doing lunges about 20 minutes, 15 minutes, nothing of that sort. Just 10 steps here, 10 steps back, make yourself do dynamic hugs, we call it. These are few exercises which you can do. Make sure you engage your core when you do these exercises, because engaging the core obviously helps the kinetic chain. When you kind of run, there has to be a dynamic activity from your tip of the toes to your tip of the fingers and obviously your head. So this kinetic chain is very important when you kind of do your activity, and that helps prevent injuries as well. Now warm down or stretching is equally important. Now again, I have seen so many people, stretching means after they run they are already tired. They kind of just sit while chit-chatting with their friends. They just kind of do some stretches, sit down, do here, there, and then they go home. Please don't do that. It is very important as far as injury prevention go. Make sure you spend some time. Give your body that much of time to relax, stretch properly, get that suppleness of your joint back, because they have done enough hard work for the past few hours or a couple of hours or 1 hour or whatever on that day. You need to kind of understand that that particular muscle group, those particular joints, they need to kind of relax before you go and do your duties. So don't rush. Again, technique is important. Now why I was talking about technique when he showed the quad stretch is because I am going to just demonstrate 3 stretches today quickly. One is your calf stretch, which is very important again. I know most of the people have some different techniques of doing calf stretch. Maybe they are all right, but I am just going to show one which is kind of effective, and you get that feel of having a calf stretch, So what I want Samir to kind of do it with me on the other side of the screen is just stand with your right leg behind. Your elbows needs to be soft, just soft. Come more ahead. Okay. Now both the toes pointing straight. Now this is just to support. We don't have to put any pressure. I want you to bend your knee and your elbows and take your body in front without lifting, keeping this leg behind, the hind leg straight, without lifting the heel. Just start going in front. Now what you are feeling is a complete stretch in your calf. Right? So you need to feel that stretch and hold it. What people do, done and done. Don't do that. Hold it for like 10 counts, 15 counts, and then release, and then the other leg. It is one of the major muscles which you kind of, it is under a lot of load and kind of insult for a while. You need to kind of stretch it. So this is one stretch which I feel should be a part of your daily routine.
This is post-run.
Post-run, yes. This is all cool down. We're done with the dynamic stretching. Now this is passive. When I tell you to hold, wait, that is all passive. Dynamic is you need to kind of move and stretch as well simultaneously. That is dynamic. Before, passive, after. Standing hamstring stretch. Now again, I want you to see what I am doing. This is hamstring stretch. Obviously what you people do usually is either you put it on some bench or something of that sort and you do. That is also a correct method, but not always you will find a proper height. Not always you will find something to sit, mattress or something to kind of stretch. So this is something, just a modification of doing a hamstring stretch when you are standing. So you can just put your leg in front. Again, toes pointing straight. Why I know kind of I want the techniques to go absolutely right. Make it a habit. Get these techniques right whenever you do anything, be it running, stretching, warm up, everything. That will help you not only, but it will help you prevent injuries as well. Now I want you to raise your toes Okay. Now these hips, they need to kind of go back and up and bend slightly. Just push your hips behind and up. Now can you feel the stretch right here? Yeah, it goes in right up to your calf, and that's a very good stretch again after runs. So you need to again hold it 10, 15, 20 counts and relax, and again with the other leg, and suddenly you will start feeling better. So this is one thing which should be a routine again. Now quadriceps stretch, the last one. Now we did a dynamic quad stretch, right? This is the quadriceps muscle. He just demonstrated a good quadriceps stretch dynamically. Same thing you can do passively, but the technique again. Okay. Now when he did dynamically, although I want to correct him now, is usually what people do is their knee goes on the other side. They go this way and then they do it. Quadriceps muscle, it starts from somewhere in the pelvis and it is attached on the shin. It covers two major joints of your body. So you have to kind of understand the anatomy of it before you stretch it. So quadriceps stretch, you can hold it and do it. It should be done correctly in the sense, let this knee fall in the same, it has to be in the same plane and it has to go behind. Straight in the same line, not this way or not the other way, and you feel the difference now. You will feel it is stretching from right here. You can hold it and do it because usually it is not, right? You can feel it right up to here. That whole bulk of muscle needs to be stretched. And now if you just go slightly away, you will feel you are losing the stretch. You lose that stretch. So it is important to know the techniques well when you kind of do it, and it definitely prevents injuries. Last thing which I want to cover is cramps. Most of the people, they do get it. I don't want to kind of tell you what cramps are. There are different theories why it happens. Till today, researchers are still behind finding the right answer for cramps. Some people say it is hydration, some people muscle fatigue. There's some neuromuscular transmission that is probably somewhere down the line it is wrong, and they are coming to the answers to it. But there are solutions. Hydration, extremely important. You need to understand the rule of thumb. At least have 150 to 170 ml of fluids for a longer run. This is just a rule of thumb. You don't need to kind of follow this because there are a lot of other factors to it, sweating and stuff and how much you sweat, and I don't want to get into details, but just learn to understand how to manage one. You need to improve your fitness and avoid muscle fatigue, that is overtraining. Cramps is usually when your training schedule is erratic. You train one day, you don't do something other day, suddenly you do a long run and you land up in cramps. You need to stretch regularly after exercise. Let the muscle cells understand the dynamics of your body, understand their signals, and kind of stretch regularly. Warm up, obviously research has shown that doing a systematic warm up and stretching schedules has reduced cramps to a great extent in people who have actually they undergo these kind of recommendations. Yes, if it is more than 90 minutes, use water, but adding carbohydrates obviously has shown to sustain better power output when it comes to after 60 minutes of workout. Sports drinks, obviously people use them, they are tastier than water, or using some home based salt and lemon and something of that sort. What happens, I'll just demonstrate. Last thing is what happens when your calf muscle gets cramped. When you're running, I'll just tell you when you're on your own what you need to do, and when you can take help of some. When you're in excruciating pain, obviously you cannot do anything on your own, you need to take help. So imagine that I've gone into a cramp and I'm on my own now. You've seen the calf stretch which we have done. Do it on your own. Let that thing stretch. Hold that stretch. If it is possible, if you're not in that pain where you need to sit down, then if you're on your own, you do that stretch and it will help. Even if you don't, the thing is, the same stretch, you need to take help of somebody, make him lie down, and you must have seen a lot of people on the ground, they kind of, press the toes towards the nose, the leg up. You want to demonstrate or you're okay with it? Yeah, come. Let's finish it off now that we started. I'm sorry to make you lie down. So what you need to do is, if he's camping with his right leg, just hold it straight. He's in bad pain, remember that. Just push this towards his nose and hold it for like 20 counts until the cramp goes. Again release it, it might again start cramping. Again you need to do this until the cramp goes. This is just kind of support. Toes to the nose is what usually a layman remembers, so it is obviously important. So this, if you do, you can help reduce cramp. Similarly with other muscle groups, if it is quads which is cramping, if it is hamstring, just stretch that muscle because it is under immense contraction and there is signal doesn't go to the brain, and you need to kind of make that muscle aware that you need to kind of behave properly. Conclusion: proper diagnosis of your injury, understand your goals, you need to figure out what you need to do at the end of 6 months, 5 months, 1 year. Treat the underlying cause, just don't kind of neglect signals of your body which I have been talking about. Focus on the technique which I have been always saying and doing, and treat the kinetic chain rather than just focusing on your knee or the hip or the ankle. Thank you so much. Any questions?
Could you list out the dynamic stretches that we must do?
Okay, I have mentioned the 4 of them. Basically what you need to do is, yeah, he wants to know basically the list of dynamic stretching exercises which I, see there are n number of dynamic stretching exercises, but you need to understand that you just need to focus on major muscle groups. Dynamically you need to stretch them. The major, if you talking about shoulders, you cannot neglect your shoulders when you run because they are going to be a major part of your running. So there is something called as dynamic hugs. So you just need to kind of do this hugs dynamically. Anything that you move in a systematic level is dynamic stretching. Let me make it very simple. So be it this movement, be it this movement, okay, that is what I said, hip swings, these lunges, twisting movements, these are all dynamic movements which you have to do. So there is nothing hard and fast that this is A, B, C, D you have to do. Principle is dynamically move most of the joints and muscles, and then that's about it. But if you are really interested, I can share it with you, a list of at least 7-10 exercises which you can kind of do on a regular basis. We'll just cover major joint. I'll share it with him. He can, you can post it. So
you had mentioned figure of 4 or something.
yeah, see figure of 4. Yeah, obviously, when we kind of distribute that list, we'll have a pictures to each of those so that you understand. This is figure of 4. So you know how 4 looks. So let me make it this way. So basically, this is figure of 4. And when you do this, and when you do this, you stretch your IT band as well dynamically. So by doing lunge, obviously now I am going down and coming up. I am focusing on my posterior aspect. But when I do this, my side of my thigh is also getting dynamically stretched. So you need to understand, you need to balance these exercises so that major muscle groups which are causing these particular injuries which I showed, hip and knee, ankle and foot, they are all covered dynamically before you run. So I will share it with him, and one list obviously you will get. Same with the passive stretching as well. Yes, I will do both the stuff. Anything else? Yeah.
What's your view on the backward running technique?
Backward running and barefoot running. These are two things which probably are just to train your brain more so. Again, it is just to send signals to the brain and train it, get these muscle fibers activated. Even with barefoot running, similar principle. If you add few, some part of your training with barefoot running, it also sends signals to the brain because we are not used to doing it. So it is nothing kind of it should be a part of your training or something like that. But you can, I mean, there's no harm in doing it. But obviously the quantum has to be much less than what you should do actually.
Just to clarify, you said that the heart rate always should be higher before you do the dynamic stretching, right?
Yes.
So you can do something like skipping rope or
Absolutely. Yeah, skipping and jog, light jog and skipping will elevate your heart levels. But what happens is if you immediately jump onto skipping, body should be ready, you know, skipping is a direct activity that starts. Jogging is something which you can progress slowly. Skipping you cannot progress. You can obviously progress since you can, but then that involves some kind of an action. So you can just, you know, have one stroll of about say 300 meters and then you can skip. So that obviously you need to step it up slowly and then come to dynamic stretching.
Now, suppose say I start running and I get the shin splint pain or the IT band pain
Right.
or any of the pains, then what should be my immediate treatment?
If you are getting it very frequently, then
Like I just maybe noticed.
just once if you are getting, you need to slow down. Maybe you are doing it, you are overdoing it at that particular point of time. You can reduce your speed and see if it goes away. So you need to understand that if you started getting pains and which you never had before and you are only getting it today, probably you need to slow down, see if it goes away. If it goes away, continue that slow pace for a while and then you can start picking up again. If you again start getting pain, again slow down, that means something is gone wrong prior to your start of the run and nothing to do with that particular running. But if it is kind of go away, it could be just a small kind of a nag, and usually once the body warms up, these pains, these nags usually go away if they are for the first time. But if they come over and over again, you need to look at it and understand why it has happened. So be it IT band or be it shin splints, whenever you are in pain, you need to slow down, get rid of it, and then you can start doing it. So you don't need to see a doctor immediately. You give your body some time to kind of understand. If you're getting it over and over again, then you don't have to neglect it. You need to see someone.
Like say after 15 days, go see a doctor.
It really depends on what cycle you are following right now of your training. If you're running on alternate days or every day, or how much you run, and you start getting those kind of pains over and over again, then you should not wait. Just get it corrected. Before that, get this checklist done. See how your shoes are, whether they have worn out. See whether the conditions which you are running in are the same that they were in the last 15 days or they are drastically changing. See the amount of rest you have had before the runs. It is very important. Recovery from runs is extremely important. If you don't have enough sleep prior to your runs, you are going to land up in problems the next day. Trust me, all these competitive runners, swimmers, international players, top players, they have a recovery schedule. They have their programs so well structured. They know how much they are going to sleep before they run, before they go for a competition, before they play for a match. So it is very important again.
what is a good stretching to prevent plantar fasciitis?
Plantar fasciitis, there are a couple of stretches. Why it happens is more important. You need to understand what is the cause of plantar fasciitis when it comes to a particular individual. There are reasons why it happens. So you need to first underlying cause. That is what I said when I concluded the talk, that you need to understand the underlying cause of your plantar fasciitis. Are you flat feet? Do you have a high arch? Is your calf muscles tight? Sometimes plantar fasciitis, I have seen patients who have had extremely tight hip flexors and they have plantar fasciitis. So it is all connected. The kinetic chain which I was talking about. So you need to rule out the underlying cause and then you can work on it. So if you have like repeated plantar fasciitis, you have done enough, probably the cause is somewhere else. So you need to understand the underlying cause of plantar fasciitis. But regular stretching, if you see, if you stretch your sole properly, stretch your calf properly, ball rolling under your sole, these things definitely help, temporarily at least, unless you don't know what the real cause is. Footwear again, make sure you have not worn out the insoles as well, the soles of the shoes. Right.
So is it because of body temperature difference? And if so, can we do something for that?
Exactly. So I was talking about the environmental factors when I spoke about the extrinsic factors of risks involved in injuries. Catching cold, obviously, you need to understand in the last 15 days, Pune had some erratic temperature variations and rains and stuff. So you have got to understand what is there. If it is foggy, obviously, you have to do some more warm up before you start, because the body is not going to acclimatize to the circumstances then. Now it's going to be summers, you won't need that kind of a harsh warm up. In winters you need to put in 5 minutes more. Don't stick to this 12 to 15 minutes even in winters. Maybe it is too cold and you need to probably warm up more. So even if it is foggy, you need to understand the temperature is not normal. You have to work more on yourself. Make sure about your, again, gear what you wear. Suddenly coming on with you meet somewhere for runs, you come with all kind of decked up with your whatever jackets and scarves and everything. You immediately remove, start warming up and then go. You're going to land up with some of the other complaints, either viral infections or something of that sort, or some injuries. So get your body used to the surroundings and then start running. Spend some time, give your body some time before you do this.
So what's the purpose of recovery runs, and are they really useful?
Yes, definitely they are useful. I mean, you need to understand the training schedules you follow. If you know that you're having some very hard running prior to, in your timetable, then recovery runs are very, very important. Cross training, which I can add to this recovery runs as well, which is again very crucial to prevent injuries, which probably I forgot to mention today. If you meticulously plan your whole program of running for the next 4 months, you need to understand that you need to place your recovery runs somewhere in after your hard runs, so that you recover properly. That is called as active recovery. Instead of just sitting at home and not taking an off, is not going to solve your problems. You need to do an active recovery by doing slow runs and recovery runs before you get back onto your hard runs. So it is important, and you need to it needs to be a part of your timetable as well. Good question again raised, because I forgot mentioning about cross training. Make sure if you are in aches and pains, coming out of some injury, you know that you've had a lot of pain and soreness and you're out now. Make sure you either go and swim, walk in the water. That's the best thing you can do before you actually get onto your running timetable or cycling timetable again. Yeah.
One other question. When you're doing strength training, let's say with weights, should you be doing passive stretching or dynamic?
Before strength training, dynamic. After you're done with your weight training, passive. It is the same as whatever you do. Before training, dynamic. After training, passive.
So it doesn't matter if you're running or if you're
Absolutely doesn't matter. It is about the physical activity you undergo for that particular length of time. So you need to prepare your body for that activity, and once you're done, you need to cool your body after that activity. Yeah.
Most of us are like joggers.
Right.
Though we are running 6, 7 or 10 kilometers, we start very slowly.
Correct.
Very small strides. Still, this dynamic stretching is important.
Yes, it is important. It is important. Whether you run 2 kilometers, whether you run 5 kilometers, whatever activity you start, do the dynamic stretching, and it is going to help you.
But this question is we run very slowly.
Absolutely, whatever it is, you're running, that's about it. Even if you run, as I told you, 2 kilometers or 5 kilometers with a very slow pace, you still have to dynamically stretch your body and prepare your body for that amount of time. It is helpful.
Because many of us runners have this misconception that
No need to run. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you still need to prepare your body for that run. Because you're not going to stop at 5 for 1 year. You're going to increase. And it is not only about increasing your distance, it is also about training your body and making your muscles ready for that particular run, be it whatever small distance.
Suppose I want to run 10 kilometers.
Right.
My first 2 kilometers I run very slowly.
But that's only about,
My,
so that is only you're just preparing your heart for it. What about your
Not
other
your
muscles?
joints.
Not your joints and your muscles as well. If you start increasing your stride lengths, obviously your muscles will say, boss, you did not take care of me before, now you want to run faster. So make sure that, see, there's a lot of physiology involved in dynamic stretching. There are something called as Golgi bodies into the muscle cells, which kind of send signals. These neurotransmitters which are there between the muscles and the tendons, they are very important. They need to know that they are dynamically stretched before you put them under any load. So it is nothing to do about 4, 3, 2 kilometers, it is also about, and then what happens is injuries. Then you get cramps because these transmitters are not ready. So you'll suddenly cramp and things like that. It can happen, not that it will happen, but there are chances that you might land up with cramps soon, or you might land up in early fatigue, or if you just don't do stretching, you will probably not perform well.
How can you identify muscle imbalances before you end up with injuries?
There are certain batteries of tests we conduct when we kind of analyze. We do certain measurements, we do certain functional tests, and then we kind of understand that there are certain muscle groups which are probably not balanced. So there are certain corrective measures that can be taken. Suppose we know that your right lunge and left lunge there is some problem. So we understand that certain groups of muscles probably need to work on. Maybe it is tightness, maybe it is not flexible enough one side, or maybe there is weakness in that particular muscle group. It could be anything, right from a small problem to probably a bigger problem. So there's a process to analyze functionally the imbalances of the body, different muscle groups. So there are tests for it, and we do it. We do conduct.
Is that what you call as gait analysis?
Gait analysis is only to analyze the gait, the way you walk, how you kind of step, or rather what is the stride and things like that. But when it comes to imbalances and functional, there's something called as functional movement analysis. So daily activities, whatever you do, sitting in a chair, getting up, probably turning, looking up, these are all activities which your body do. But when it comes to actually implementing them into sports or into any of these activities, we need to understand whether they are really doing with the whole the kinetic chain, whether it is proper or not proper. Gait is only to understand the way you walk, the stride and stuff. But functional movement screening is right from head to toe. We kind of screen, and there are batteries of tests which we run, wherein we kind of know that where the problem is, or is there any problem at all. Yeah. The body massage. Right. Yeah, massage is correct. Definitely. Good question again. Massage is something under the recovery program. Massage is something that is put under optional. It is not something which is mandatory. In recovery, there are kind of, they have kind of headings. What goes under compulsory and what goes under optional. Massage they have put under optional is because some people they prefer it, including ace sportsmen in the world. There are some ace sportsmen who absolutely say that they don't want any massage. So it's two kinds. There is no harm in taking massage. The only underlying factor is the masseur needs to be well trained. He should know what he is doing. There is something called as a deep tissue massage and something called as a superficial massage. The masseur needs to understand what sort of a training you have undergone in the last couple of days and why you are taking this massage. He needs to kind of get the feel of your muscles before he starts telling you whether today he needs to go in deep or he needs to do it a superficial one. One thing is for sure, don't do massage just a day before your competitions. It is not advisable because again it is a relaxing technique. Massage is something which relaxes your body, relaxes to a great extent. So your body to recover from that relaxation is obviously, it will take some time for it to to, and if you are going to for a competition running, your body cannot be relaxed. You need to be kind of full of energy. You need to understand that every muscle is ready. Don't relax them before the competition. After the competition, yes, most of them they do it. It is a very good relaxation technique. Just make sure that you do these 8B series properly and there is no harm. It is advisable, absolutely. Yeah.
Nutrition is altogether a big topic, but I just would like to ask, what would you suggest to have before we start our workouts? Because generally it might take 1 hour or so, and since early morning we don't eat anything.
Correct.
So,
Again, nutrition is, again, as you rightly said, it is a big topic, and I would request these people to have a session of an expert who is into nutrition for running before and after, because I seriously don't want to get into it today, and I'm sorry I'm not going to kind of leave it to some other session, is because there are a lot of factors that are involved in nutrition. How soon, when, what are all answers to your question which cannot be just answered right away. The one thing is for sure, hydration and nutrition are two major components which not only helps your performance but it also help you prevent injuries as well. So when you need to eat, how much you need to eat and what you need to eat is absolutely your bang on. You need answers to it, and you need it from an expert, and you need it from somebody who handles sports nutrition. And even I take help of a sports nutritionist when I need something for my athletes. So we probably will leave it to some session, but I will surely personally try and answer your questions by email or something of that sort. All right. All right. Yes. No, it's okay. Absolutely.
What are the symptoms of this Achilles tendonitis?
Okay. Now I'll just take this question because as I told you that we are not going to go into details of all the injuries what I was talking about. Achilles tendonitis, obviously it is pain in that particular portion of your heel, that is pain behind your heel and just right up slightly where you can feel that big thick rope. It's a nag there most of the times when you run or when you when you push yourself, that part. Either it could be in one leg or both legs. It can happen for an instance or it can go on every single time when you run. You can also feel a lump there. If it is chronic, you will start feeling some weird thing which you should compare it with your other leg if you have only in one leg. That pain doesn't go away by icing, by probably taking some painkillers for a while, and if it still persists, you need to see someone to get rid of the cause.
Is it during the run or is it post?
It can happen during the run, it can pain after the run, it can pain even at rest. So you also have to rule out whether it is really an Achilles pain or it is something else as well. All right?
Any other questions?
Yeah.
yeah, you mentioned exercises for other muscles, but is there any particular for the knee pains? Because as you say, runner's knee, we say, because after say we run for a couple of kilometers, after some time there is a pain in the knee and it is sometimes feel like it's having a bit imbalance. So can we have some exercises for that?
See, there are a lot of exercises which you can do actually in your training routine. I mean, not necessarily only the runs, but when you start getting this knee pain after a couple of kilometers, is it related to fatigue of your muscle or is it just temporary? You need to find out that it could be just a phase where you can still continue running for like another 2 kilometers and then it vanishes away and then you can continuously run. So it could be because you are not probably taking good care of your muscles around the knee. So these things are again very common. As I told you, females are more prone to having runner's knee because of their angles and things like that. So you need to really work on your muscle groups before in your training sessions. Only running is obviously, I mean, it's not going to solve all your problems, but you need to register these small bits as well, that if you have knee pains, get it addressed, why it is paining. Is it only because of your kneecap not tracking properly, or is it something else as well? But after 2 kilometers, that means once it warms up, maybe you're not tracking your knee properly, and then that could be one reason why it starts hurting. So you need to kind of get to the cause of that particular problem. Thank you.
Simply raise tea served outside. Please have a cup of tea. Let him tea and don't curse it too much. And well, he is got a clinic. Otherwise, where is the exact location of the clinic just for our people?
Yeah,
When times want to refer themselves, because we all have prone to injuries sometime or the other, like he said.
Okay, I consult in the